Hello and welcome back to the show. So I am super excited to be joined here by my guest for today, Angelo Christian. Angelo is a real estate mortgage broker. He owns a company, and he is the CEO of Christian Financial, and it is a company that really does a lot in the lending industry, right? So anything that you can think about, whether if it's buying a residential home, FHA, commercial lending, hotels, multifamily, he does all of this, and it's a really diversified company. So as you can imagine, Christian is somebody who has a lot of experience in this space, and he has had 15 years of experience. He's now one of the top financial advisors here in the Houston area, and he started his journey all the way back before all of this success, living in his car, being homeless. So I would love for him to be able
Literally. Yeah.
I love for him
Yeah.
to be able to share a little bit of that today on the show and talk to us a little bit about how to become very successful, building a successful business, even coming from very humble beginnings. So, without further ado, I want to introduce my guest, Christian or Angela. Welcome to the show.
You can call me Chris. A lot of people do that, so it's all good, man. So thank you, yeah, for having me on, man. No, it's definitely been a journey. I've now been, yeah, in the lending business for nearly 2 decades. And yeah, it literally started, we grew up very poor and homeless, not because of we wanted to, just because of circumstances with my parents. And so it really is a real life bootstrap situation that really just attributed to hard work, extremely hard work. I mean, I still work 80 plus hours a week today, and that's really the secret for me. I didn't have a Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk type father or brain, so I had to get my butt out there and get to work. So, but yeah, I mean, look back at that time, it was a very grim time for me with my family. We didn't know what we're going to do, how we're going to survive. And so at that time, I enrolled into, and I had to drop out of school to take care of my family. I was working three jobs, and because my father had left us. And so I dropped out in the sixth grade, so I didn't really have a solid education. So I wanted to change my life, and I wasn't happy. I was just, working at restaurants and, you know, um, really meager type jobs just to make ends meet. And so I enrolled back into college to get my GED. Went back to school, and really started to study success, because I found out, like, from reading some of the books, some of my favorite books, like, Unlimited Power by Anthony Robbins, Think and Grow Rich, studying Warren Buffett. How do people do it? Because obviously people have done it before, and you study history. So I started to really get involved in reading a lot of books on success, business, finance, and those people, even though I didn't know them personally, like Warren Buffett or Arnold Schwarzenegger, I knew them virtually. And by reading them, I felt that connection with them, that I could change my life because I saw what they did. So went to school, got my education. Fell in love with finance, love numbers, love math, and then went to go work for a mortgage bank, Ameriquest Mortgage, in 2005 in the subprime heyday in the subprime market, and studied their business model. And basically from there, after the subprime implosion, that company shut down. I started my own brokerage, and really the rest is history now. I mean, we first started off doing subprime loans, then we shifted into FHA loans, and then really grew the company. From 2007 till today. When we first started, we were just doing residential, but like you stated, we've morphed into, hard money private lending, commercial lending, and we still do standard lending. So we have three divisions, which is very rare for a mortgage company. Most mortgage companies will just do one. But because of the depth of my knowledge in doing this for so long, and the resources that we have, we've been able to set up, three different silos in the market to be able to service, pretty much all different types of clientele. So that's fast forward today, 2024. So the mortgage business is very, very dynamic, real estate in the market. And one of the things I always say is that you have to have, in life, a very solid lender in your pocket. Everybody always needs money. Capital is a multi-trillion-dollar business, and we want to be your lender when it comes to getting financing. Whether it's you buying your house and you need a conventional mortgage, or you want to build, 200 units, we want to be your lender to make it happen.
Right. Absolutely. So you have a very, I'd say a very cool story of, starting out somebody who I guess from the outside looking in, didn't start out very successful, but,
Oh,
really kind of built it, on your own back, if you will, this very successful business that you have
right.
today, that is actually very unusual, like you said, in the, in the mortgage industry, right? Where you guys are doing, all kinds of different, all kinds of different loans in your company. So, I'd love to dig a little bit deeper into kind of your journey into success. You mentioned you started out, reading a lot of books and finding all of these virtual mentors, if you will. So I guess what was kind of your inspiration to do that, and what are some of the top lessons that you learned there, where it ended up changing your mindset from somebody who was kind of more or less broke to building a
Yeah,
path of success.
yeah, and I think that's a very important thing because I think everything ultimately stems from the mind. Whether you have a good life or a bad life, it's going to be, what's going on inside your head. And so obviously, you know, there's no secret that in America there's different classes of people. There's different, um, you know, divisions of wealth. And us being poor, I was aware of that. That there is different. I mean, you said that you're in Sugar Land, I'm in Houston. You go to River Oaks and you see people, and you're like, well, how did that guy get that house? How did that guy do that, right? And I'm over here living in a little 400 square foot apartment. What did they do? And then so you start, and this is like really before the internet or cell phones and all this stuff. So really, the only thing you had was the library, your books, and the internet was starting to just kind of come out. It was a kind of a thing, but I wanted to find out, okay, how do if other people had made enormous amount of success, obviously there's a pattern, there's a science to it. Obviously, every industry is going to be different. Like we mentioned, Amazon or Tesla, it's a different industry, but there's a pattern. So studying what those patterns were, or what their thought process was to build a company like that and do those type of things. So yeah, I mean, I immerse myself in books, and some of my favorite books is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Changed my life forever. I mean, obviously, Rich Dad Poor Dad. How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's a solid one. Unlimited Power. And Tony Robbins. Changed mindset was a big driver for me. Everything by Warren Buffett. I love Warren Buffett. Great, amazing hero of mine. I've never met him personally, but he's definitely in my thoughts. And so the lessons that I got from that is, yeah, I mean, you have to. I mean, there's many different lessons. I mean, obviously, financially disciplined. You have to know your numbers. We talked about work ethic, extremely, hard work. I mean, you're not going to, in any company, doesn't matter what it is, somebody's putting the work in, whether it's the team, you know, employees, managers, someone's having to do that work, whether it's Microsoft or, Apple, or just my little small little mortgage company. So you have to have hard work, and you also have to be very organized. You have to be a great communicator. These are really important, especially when you're managing people. You have to be able to delegate and communicate and inspire people. I like to use inspiration to lead people, not fear. And then obviously consistency. You just can't be good for one day. It's a journey of decades of hard work, and so that consistency, coming up and rising to the occasion, coming to the plate every day to swing the bat, and being mentally prepared to do that, right? So, and obviously that leads into taking care of your health. If you're not healthy, then you're not going to be able to, exert that much energy to have a successful business. So those are some of the top things that I've learned along the way. And then obviously, building relationships, solid networking with great people. I try to stay away from as much as I can from negative people. I don't want any toxicity around me, so So, networking and around people that are like-minded, I think is very important. It helps to, create a synergy and, more ideas flow from that. So I think networking is very powerful, but in order to network, you have to have something to offer. No one's going to want to hang around you if you don't have any value. So in a business setting, not in a friend setting, but in a business setting. So you have to, get really good at what you're doing for people to attract people to want to be around you, right? So those are some of my lessons that I've learned.
Yeah, and those are really good lessons, right? Because like you mentioned earlier on, everything stems from how you think. Everything stems from your mind and really what's up here. And you mentioned, one of the more important things that were able to kind of help you get to a place of success was surrounding yourself with, you know, successful people, right? Having the right network, having being in the right environment. And you obviously started out in an environment where I guess it wasn't really conducive to success, right?
Right.
Not having that. So how were you able to, I guess, change that? Did you put some type of framework in place in order to, get rid of toxic people and negative people in your life and the negative environments and, you know, actively pursue being in proximity with positive and successful people?
Well, yeah, I mean, so obviously, I think the first thing is, having that awareness of where I was at and where I wanted to be. So there was a gap, right? And if you're studying psychology and success, those people did certain things to get there. So I basically just modeled what, as in my world, what I could of, these people that I looked up to, like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Jeff Bezos, just in my own world, what I could do in my power. So yeah, I mean, the other thing that I was at one time was I weighed 400 pounds. I was morbidly overweight, and had no structure or discipline with eating habits. So I was dealing with that at the same time when I was a kid, and trying to get out of poverty. So just a complete change of everything, change of scenery. I shook out when I was a teenager. I hung around the wrong crowd. Had to shake that off, make a change. Get rid of the people that were bringing me down. Change my diet. I started to exercise daily. Still walk today. I walk 7 hours a day right now. And at that time I was lifting weights. So yeah, getting into a regimen with, exercise, and then studying, learning, becoming a student, and mastering my craft, to become the best that I could.
Right. So studying and learning, right? That's I think the more important thing for anybody who wants to become a success, and that is something that you did, right? Studying different people, getting not just your professional life in order, but also getting your personal life in order, so that you can actually be around and just have a good environment and that
Right.
positive energy moving forward. So is that something that I guess like kind of stuck with you as you were continuing in building your business,
Mhm.
or did you kind of see it kind of fall off a little bit as you were becoming more successful?
No, no, it's. I mean, I think if you the whole thing is you got to develop the right habits. Habits will dictate your actions, and those habits, for the most part, have stayed with me. I haven't really lost touch with everything I've done. I mean, I've at that time I had to change the habits of, again, eating, studying. I didn't like to read. I used to hate to read when I was a kid, or even just anything with sitting down reading a book, or I despised it. Now, I mean, I love learning. So just those things have always stayed with me. Another thing that I think is also very important, is you have to have time for yourself. So meditation, or whatever you want to call it, or reflecting, I think is extremely critical, for anybody's mental health and success and long-term stability. Is sometime, ideally every day, for some type of self-awareness or reflection, so that way you can resolve things in your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that you want to stick with as you continue building your success as well. And, taking the time, even if you're busy, like, obviously you are, taking the time to, really build those, not just build those habits, but to maintain those habits. That's how you're going to maintain your success once you build it in the first place, right? Because I think we
Right.
see a lot of people who, they had good habits in the beginning when they were starting out, but as they started to build their success and build their business, and more people were taking up their time and they have more obligations, they end up, slowing down on building those
Right.
habits or straying away from that. And that's not something that you want to do, right?
No, no, I agree. I agree with you completely. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I'll tell you, and then I'm also married, I have three children. It's and the thing is that you don't really know for sure. You can't forecast everything. Um, and you don't know when you get involved into something really what you've signed up for. So and then because as time passes, more and more things come up, more opportunities, more challenges, and it's just you have to go with the flow and ride it like a wave and just do your best to hold on and make it. But no, I mean it's and it's a great journey. It's definitely it's you have to. I think the biggest thing is you have to exert a lot of effort, a lot of energy to keep it all together.
Right. Absolutely. So let's kind of shift gears a little bit here, and I want to talk a little bit more about kind of what you guys are doing, your business specifically, right, in lending. So you started out kind of in a time where I guess the lending industry was a little bit in turmoil, if you will, and obviously starting out in that space in that time, it might not have been, I guess, the easiest time to start in this industry. So how were you able to, I guess, jump in and survive, like you said, without really knowing what you were getting yourself into, kind of in that time period?
Well, when we got into it, it was still the rise of subprime. So we did really well the first few years. But then when 2007, 2008 hit, um, that's when things started to really take a deep dive. And it did catch me by surprise. I was only 24 years old. Um, never been through a recession, had no idea what was going on. And, we woke up one day and 40 of our lenders shut down. So it was the craziest thing looking back. Um, but um, we never took out any debt. So we were financially disciplined. And that time we had a small team. So it didn't really, I'm not going to say that we're 100% immune. I mean, obviously our revenue went down substantially at that time, but we survived. And then we pivoted. We pivoted to where the opportunity, where the market was, which at that time, subprime died, and then government lending like FHA was the new hottest thing. So we had to pivot to other products. So that's how we survived, is paying attention to what was going on in the market and where the opportunities were, and that's kind of what led us to where we are today. We've constantly added more product line, keep continuing to pivot. Like we've added in the last 10 years, private and commercial lending. We didn't have commercial lending, 11 years ago. Now, fast forward in the last 10 years, we have private because sometimes, and you may know this, that a lot of times real estate deals, they don't fit the box of a bank conventional requirement. And that's why you have private fix and flip hard money, bridge loans, no doc loans, asset based, where, okay, you know what, the deal doesn't make sense today for a bank or conventional, but later on it can make sense. So we can give you a bridge loan, a private loan, which has more flexible underwriting requirements. And then later on you can refinance, to a long-term loan, or a bank loan once that property stabilized, once the credit's ready, or whatever the problem is. So we've added these other products now in addition to that. So that's the thing, I think, in any business that you have to, if you want to stay afloat, is you have to pay attention to what's going on in the market. And it's sad because a lot of businesses that were great, they didn't do that, like Radio Shack. I mean, Circuit City. I don't know if you remember Circuit City. There was a lot of good businesses. They didn't pivot. And in time, I was funny. I was going to the store there the day. I don't know if you remember Z Gallery. It was a kind of a home furnishing store, and they used to have location. Well, I thought the location was still in city center. I went to there on Sunday, and they shut down. So I went and researched it. The company filed bankruptcy. They sold home goods, but they couldn't make it. Amazon, online, they didn't pivot fast enough, right? I mean, and it was a great store. I loved it. But it's one of those things you have to, if you're in a business, and then obviously cash flow. Cash flow is number one. Cash flow is king. You have to have cash.
Right. Yeah. So pivoting in business is it's so important, right? Like you mentioned those stores that didn't, and another example that comes up is Blockbuster, right? We all
Blockbuster.
kind of seen what happened to them. So I think it's super interesting that you guys were able to kind of start out, being very successful when subprime was, on the up and up, and everybody was that was like the new cool thing, and all of a sudden, just overnight, it went away and it became this terrible thing for the entire industry. And you guys are not only able to stay in business, but kind of use that as a way to leverage your own advantage, which is now jumping into FHA loans and government loans at that
Right.
point. So I
Right.
think it's very interesting that you guys took that strategy, and that's been what you guys been doing ever since.
Right. And then we've just kind of kept adding, additional products since then. It was just whatever, our thought is that if there's a market out there and it's a good market, we want to be in it. So we didn't have the thinking that no, we just want to stay in our lane. We want to be aware of where's all the opportunity, and let's add as much product and get really good at that product. So that way we have a very robust offering.
Right. And I'd love to kind of talk a little bit about that if you don't mind, which is, how are you guys able to do that? What kind of framework do you guys have in place in your business that really allows you to not only pivot, but to add new products or, services, if you will, to your business without overextending, without, diluting down your previous core services, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so we literally have their separate companies. I mean, so like separate legal entities with separate employees, separate management. I mean, there's our main company, Angelo Christian Financial, and then we have a residential arm, and then we have a private arm, then we have a commercial arm, and then there's management in each division like a tree, and then there's loan officers, loan processors, underwriters, marketing. So they have to all be separated out because it would get too convoluted if it was all just under one. Or if now one thing I do think it's important, we do have some people that are cross trained, that have been with me a really long time, like a few decades, and they're aware of all the product offering, and they have knowledge of it. There are some, like we call them super lenders, because they can do hard money, they can do commercial and residential all at the same time. But for somebody new in the business, it'd be way too much and extremely overwhelming. And so yeah, but it has to all be very organized. We talked about communication, organization. I mean, logistics. I mean, when you run a business, are extremely critical. So we're probably, um, I mean, just me alone, I probably get about 2,000 emails a day, probably about 1,200 text messages a day, and so I have 4 email accounts to run my business. So it's a lot of work. You're constantly checking things. So but yeah, I mean, those are the things that have helped us. So but yeah, I mean, the structure and organization has to be very, very well.
Right. I was gonna say that you guys must have like your systems in place, really locked down because there's
Right.
the expansion phase. Is there's a lot of testing, there's a lot of trial and error. You're roaming into new territory, so you definitely have your systems down.
Yeah, and just as onset, there's actually, yeah, for each, like for example, residential lending has a completely different software than commercial lending. I mean, so they don't even talk to each other. They're completely separate, because the inputs are and the data is way different. But yeah, I know it's a lot of work. I'm not going to kid you, but it's fun. It's worth it. We like it. And I mean, obviously we want to excel and sustain. So, I mean, our thought process is, do whatever it takes to make it happen.
Wow. Yeah, and that's kind of been your success as far as being able to expand as quickly as you guys have, because you see businesses out there all the time who are not doing that, right? Who
Right.
stick to their core services, who stick to, doing one thing really, really well. And, they made a good name for themselves doing that. But what you guys have been doing is rapidly expanding, adding new products, adding new services so that you can really diversify and also really hedge against something happening like what happened back in 2007, 2008. And
Right. Right.
continue surviving that way. Is that why you guys have been continuing to add new
Yeah.
products?
Yeah. That, I mean, just like look what happened with COVID. Meaning, when COVID hit, I mean, commercial lending died. So, when rates dropped so low, you could get a 2.5% rate. Residential lending blew up, So, and you don't know what's going to happen. Well, no one saw, I didn't see COVID coming. I don't think anyone could predict that. So, but I think being diversified, um, is you have somewhat of a hedge or a buffer, you know, and in case something does happen. I mean, I agree with mastering something and doing it very well, because what you don't want to have is where you see a lot of entrepreneurs, they get in like 20 different businesses chasing the shiny objects or butterflies, and none of them are really doing any revenue or making any money. That's not what you want to do either. But if you started a core business and it's doing very well, and then you're adding, synergistic, complementary product lines to it, then I think that that's okay, right? I mean, it's not like we got into lending and then we got into pharmaceuticals and added that to it, so it's still all lending. It's just different divisions. Um, so, and I think that if it's managed properly, then I think it works, right? It's kind of like Walmart at its Sam's Club, so it's like they're kind of they're still selling some type of product or grocery. It's just a different way of doing it. So I think if it's done right, it can be very well. But I don't disagree with you that you have to master your core business for sure.
Right. So I'd love to kind of get your take on this because, you guys are obviously in multiple different, avenues when it comes to lending. But have you ever, I guess, analyzed an opportunity or pursued and, looked into a different type of lending product or something possibly that's related, and you noticed that it wasn't a good opportunity, or you decided to wait a little bit before jumping into that product? Has that ever happened, and kind of what went into that decision when you do decide to, I guess, not pursue an opportunity at this point, just because it might overextend you?
Yeah, no, that happens all the time. I mean, there's always been. I mean, there's um, things that come up where all the time where it could either be a new product offering, or even a new deal. And that deal that we are looking at, it just doesn't make sense for us at that time, either because the capital requirements may be too high. For example, let's say you look at funding let's say we're looking at, I know it's a specific deal, but it's a $54 million multifamily in Orlando, ground up construction. And we like the location. We love Orlando, but the borrower, the sponsor, only wanted to put in, like 3% of his own equity, and we didn't feel comfortable with that. So we tabled it and said, look, we like the project, but we don't feel like you're putting enough money into it for us to make that size of a loan. So that's on a deal transaction. On products, if we feel like, that because some of the products are created on the secondary market with Wall Street, and they may release a product, but that doesn't mean that we have to adopt it. And sometimes we'll table some things, like there's certain programs that have come out, and we'll look at it and say, no, we don't think that's good at this time to do. There's some programs that have come out recently, for people that don't have a social security, they just have a tax ID number, but they're offering very high leverage with only 5% down, and we didn't feel comfortable with that risk. We think they should be putting at least 10% down. So you come into situations like that all the time, and the thought is that everything that we do is, from a decision standpoint, it has to be to protect the company and risk mitigation. So that's the inputs of the thought that go into it. Is this going to protect the company? Is it going to help enhance the value of the company? What's the risk factors? If the risk factors are too high based on our inputs, our data, then we won't do it. You can't just be focusing on profit or money. You also have to be focused on contemplating the downside and the risk.
Absolutely. That's so important when it comes to protecting your company, right? Not just growing, but also how do we stay in business for the
Right,
long.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So, Angelo, I really appreciate you being here today. You shared, I
Yeah,
think, a ton of value for us, and I
thank
think
you.
you inspired a lot of our viewers and listeners as well, based on just your personal story. So, for anybody who
Thank
is
you, man.
watching or listening to this that want to reach out to you, that want to learn more about what you're
Yeah,
doing, or maybe they're a real estate agent that want to partner with you on deals in the future with their clients or investors, how can they reach you? What are the best
yeah,
ways to follow you?
for sure, for sure. So we're a nationwide commercial, residential, private lender. So we're here. We have offices in Houston, the Woodlands, Florida, Miami. But you can call or text our office 832-431-6331. And we also have our website, official angelochristian.com. And our social media, we're big, huge on social media. I have a podcast there, Real Estate Insider. You can look us up on YouTube, Instagram, Angelo Christian. I think we have over 1,600 videos that we've released on there. We've been doing it for over 7 years on our social media, so you can reach us out there. So yeah, please reach out to us if we can help you. You need help with the deal, financing, whatever for real estate. We want to be your lender.
Awesome. We'll make sure to leave the links down to that in the description and the show notes below. But other than that, Angelo, appreciate you being
Yes,
here.
ma'am.
Before I
Kobe.
let you go, is there any last tips, any last piece of advice you want to leave with us?
Just I would say in life, make the most of yourself, and you know, do all that you can. Whatever you decide to do with your life, just be the best that you can be, and just make the most of yourself and add as much value that you can while you're here on Earth.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you for
Yeah.
tuning in, and we'll see you on the next show. Take
Thank you,
care.
Kobe. Thank you, man.